It is Thursday, July 20th, 2023. It's 6 o'clock p.m., and I'd like to call this meeting of the Tewksbury Board of Health to order. First on our agenda tonight is approval of minutes from the last time we met back in April. So April 20th, 2023, we have minutes that at least I reviewed the last time. And do any members have any comments or questions about those minutes back from April?
I do not.
No.
Bob, any questions or comments on the minutes? Any?
Very difficult.
Any questions or comments for the minutes?
None.
Okay. So hearing none, I'd like to entertain someone to put a motion forward to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll put a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay.
I will second the motion.
Okay, motion's been put forth and second to approve the minutes of April 20th, 2023 as submitted. All's in favor will signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously 4-0. And I'll just add that we do have one member who's out sick tonight, which is why we're at a board of 4. Okay. Moving on to old business. Jade East, repeat priority violations of the food code. So Director, if you want to just give us an introduction.
Okay, so back in October 2022, the department closed the JDs due to unsanitary conditions. Since then, we had them obtain a consultant to do weekly inspections. First, the consultant was there for 6 months, and then after the 6 months, we reevaluated and still found that there were continuous priority violations. So we had them extended again. And since the extension on May 9th, we have seen continuous temperature and cooling violations, which is why I had them come before the board tonight.
Okay, so if you both like to come forward. Yeah, so you both can sit at the table up here. And then there is a sign-in log, so if you both want to sign your name and address, and then once you've done that, just provide the same information into the microphone just so it's recorded for the record.
Hearing.
And then as they're doing that, Director Gillis, can you just enlighten the board, even though I know some of the members already know the answer to this question? Since we're talking about temperature not being at the correct level, what by the food code is the temperature range or allowable temperature range?
So for cold foods, it has to be held at 41 or below. And the temperature ranges from the reports show they're above 40 to as high as 70 degrees.
Okay, and then is there something also about, has it been a cold dish or has it also been on the hot food?
It's the cold foods that
Okay.
have been room temperature.
Okay. So if you both could just speak
Okay.
into the microphone, who you are and where you're from?
First, I'm Mike Kwan, and I'm the food service consultant to work for JE's since last November 2022. And since last November, JE's has much improved on the violation, which include the personal hygiene, cause contamination, food temperature, cleaning, and sanitation. Even there's it still has some traditional behavior to do the wrong thing in the food temperature, but the owner is still keep making the correction and improve. Recently, I think last 2 weeks ago, owner spent few $1,000s to buy the new refrigerator to the hotline and try to make things going well. And from my observation, it's in progress. But maybe he still need more time to do the practicing.
Okay, so if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kevin. I'm the owner of JE's. And then I'm now, sometime I have to hiring the new helper in the kitchen. So I have to train them, do it, follow what I tell them to do, better and better, If some of the helper cannot reach my goal, my standard, I go to find another helper, Now it's a really tough time for the restaurant, It's really hard to find the good helper,
Okay, so from past 2 months, and owners keep terminate field workers and change the new worker. But the new worker need time to train, the good timing on training. So that's the reasons the restaurants still have the violation, repeat violation, but I think it will be better in the future.
Yeah, I try my best, keep on drinking, keep the eyes on them every day,
And the reasons are for the hot temperature from the cold food. First, I find out past Monday is the weather, of course, and the kitchen has not enough air circulation. So I asked the owner to install the more equipment, try to make the kitchen has more air circulation. That may hopefully will be better, and I will keep my eyes on it.
Yeah, today they already delivered the powerful fans. I already get it. So I have to put it on, circulate the fresh air, go to the cooking area, make it, the temperature going down, Yeah, I try to do whatever the best, to do it.
And Kevin is always listen to the health department, and me pay attention how to correct all the violation as much as he can. And yes.
Yeah, if something, some helper, the new helper, they not doing good the job. I'm apologize, I keep the eyes on them, train them,
And especially the last times Kevin Kevin has one good friend who worked for his insurance, the restaurant insurance, and that agent heard the story from Kevin. Then he just get angry by no reason, and asked Kevin to try not to pay seriously attention from the health department. And Kevin would say sorry to Sharon about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Because my English is not that good. Sometimes Camille misunderstand, cannot say the thing completely, That's why some misunderstand, make things, make myself between Shannon. Some the relationship seems like you can ask Shannon if whatever she tell me to do, I co-op all the time, right?
Because Kevin's got the wrong direction from his friend. After that, I discussed with Kevin, and he should pay seriously and more attention from the health department and correct all the violations. So after that, he listened to me and listened to the health department. So things get improved. But things get improved, but he may still need a little bit more time to be perfect.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to the board, so if you have questions, go right ahead.
I do. So how much time are you thinking that is necessary until things are improved? Because from my understanding, this has been going on since October 22. And so that you've been with them for longer than 6 months, so how much more time?
First way, improve doesn't mean not qualified or not meet the standard. The cold food test, the hot temperature is just once in a while. So they keep practicing, and under my supervision, I can say the restaurant still serve safe food to the public. And if you ask me how much time, and it determined by the health department, because you guys read the result and you guys should estimate
Okay,
how much time for it.
I have a couple of questions, actually. And then also, as far as, you had mentioned turnaround time. So how many in this time frame? How many employees have left and new employees have come in? And then a roundabout, doesn't have to be an exact number. And then what is that time frame of you training them to be adequate to be able to then know about these temperatures? Like, what is your, basically, what are your trainings and education?
Okay, within 3 months, right? From what I saw, is at least 2 different workers, new workers, and each time they train almost every day. But sometimes they may not doing very good because the behavior. Because each worker, they may work in the kitchen from their traditional behavior for over 10 years or 15 years, and we cannot say they don't know the new things, but they may just forgot how do it exactly all the time. So they keep learning every day. And if you ask me the length of the time when they will be success, I can tell you, can be any time.
Now, do you have someone in the restaurant that's always there that is educated on these regulations and these violations?
Yes, the head chef. The head chef is chef certified, and he can teach. Plus, I go over there on every week. I can make the correction.
So are these people being accountable for when there are violations? Because if they are serve safe and they are in basically, from my understanding, to be able to help with this or be able to make sure that these temperatures are correct, are they being accountable for these repeat violations as well, because it's on basically their certification?
I think the kitchen may need more worker to take the chef training and exam, and I will talk to the owner after this meeting.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For right now, that's it. I probably have more, but you can continue.
I have a couple of questions about the physical building and the plant itself and the equipment, the heating and cooling equipment. What age is the cooling equipment on the roof and to the exterior that cools the interior of the kitchen? How old is that equipment?
好啊，我話你嗰啲機器樓頂嗰啲抽風機咧，大約幾耐啊？
You say the exhaust fan go to the roof, something like that?
大概幾耐啊？
What year was the equipment last replaced?
Oh, the last year I put a new, exhaust fan on the roof, brand new.
Air conditioning unit?
They are not. Yeah,
Or is that an exhaust fan?
Yeah, exhaust fan. They have the fresh air come in circularly. They both way. They, some fresh air come in, and then the other way, and then they suck the hot air out,
Does that fresh air get cooled by the system?
Yes.
Or is that just air being brought in?
The air brought in, and then I already buy the powerful fans, put
So
to
is there a
help.
possibility, do you have an HVAC company that services your restaurant for the air conditioning and cooling?
廚房有冇冷氣廚房？
沒有
Okay, the kitchen has no AC, and I will discuss this issue with the owner after the meeting. But possibly, I can ask him to install the AC or the powerful machine in the kitchen.
Could I inject?
I would really feel comfortable with a report from an HVAC contractor on what your system does. When temperatures get to 80, 90 degrees outside, I want to know what the capacity for cooling is in that kitchen.
Do you,
And let me tell you why.
Okay,
Because the temperatures that I see here aren't just related to cooling and holding. They're related to interior environmental. Do you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying?
I can talk to Kevin after the meeting and get the HVAC company and give the receipt and the documents to the health department after. So make sure everything, not just talking, will be proceed in real.
So as a food consultant, you can understand your job becomes complicated by environmental factors.
Yes, at this point, sometimes we have to, because when the health department proceed the regulation, they just follow the law, but the food service consultant has to talk to the owner about the budget, people, behavior, environment, food taste. So it's all things come together, So, but anyway, I will still have time to discuss that with Kevin and get a good result and report to the health department after today.
See, I get concerned about the number of people in the kitchen, the amount of fuel being burned to heat, the amount of people in the restaurant. The load becomes sometimes high.
Yeah.
It affects the interior environmental, it affects the premises, it affects your workers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I think having an HVAC person look at things and explain to you and explain to the board
Thank you.
that things are balanced. We're not fighting a situation that we're losing on one hand, the battle to keep food at the right temperature and to keep people comfortable, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
So that's the one thing that I would look for, is just to see what balance the building has, to make sure that we're not looking at things that are beyond our control as food, as opposed to environmental concerns in the building.
No problem.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's my first point. My second point is that I can honestly say I look at these reports and things are getting better. But then we have relapses. And I guess maybe the relapses might be related to turnover
Yes.
with employees, but that has to be anticipated. You can't wait. You know it's going to happen. There must be a plan in place to anticipate that event. And you know when you need to anticipate it? Friday, 2:30 in the afternoon, before your crowd arrives. Everyone's going to quit. And then all of a sudden, here we are, and we have maybe a couple of events, but that plan needs to be in place. And I know it's difficult to find help, work, et cetera, et cetera. But a plan has to be in place anticipating these events. They're gonna happen in this market, in this work environment, right? You almost have to have a training program to train people whether you're gonna hire them or not. You have to anticipate these problems because they're gonna result in a food violation. And if it's a critical food violation, it may shut your restaurant down for lack of planning. So I know you're a food consultant. Does he have somebody that's in the industry that can help him with his turnover and his employee problems? That's something that really needs to be looked at for the future.
I will set up the master plan for the cleaning and training in the restaurant. So every day they will do different job in cleaning and more training. So I hope that may be better.
You know, the Massachusetts Unemployment Division has great resources. And I want you to use those resources.
Okay, I will take a look
I
at it.
want you to reach out to them. I don't want to do that for you or have to come in and say, you know, reach out. There are many agencies out here that are willing to help, but you have to reach out and you have to work with them. And I think that, you know, if you're explaining to them what your particular problems are, your industry-wide problems, they've seen them before, and they may have resources that might be able to be, you know, you might be able to immediately look to in the event you have that turnover issue. But I think that's part of the training that has to be ongoing for every business in Massachusetts these days. It's not like the old days. I'm gonna put an ad in the paper, I'm gonna talk to someone, someone's gonna come in and I'm gonna hire them. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah,
It
no
simply
more.
doesn't happen.
Those chances no more, you know.
This old networking just doesn't work like it used to work. So I would really like to see you reach out and see if you can address some of those employment issues by possibly reaching some of the resources that Massachusetts has to offer.
I will discuss that with Kevin. Thank you.
The third thing that I'm seeing is a pattern of, and I'm gonna just look to the director for a moment, a pattern of specific violations that seem to be reoccurring.
Right.
And while they have a lot of different dynamics and problems, it's the patterns that I'm concerned about, because the patterns are not the good types of patterns. They're the patterns that can cause someone to be ill or worse. And those are something that we have to address with the food consultant. He has to be aware of these patterns. That is a thing that needs to be addressed on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a daily basis. And I think addressing the patterns and looking to those issues and trying to get those issues resolved while you're doing these other big picture things, right? These patterns are what concerns me. And you look through these reports, you see the same patterns. Get a highlighter, yellow them out, pink them out, create some sort of program, appoint some employee that's going to be responsible and accountable, and make them address the pattern. And they should be reporting directly to you.
Yes, you know, I think I'm going to discuss the menu and change the ingredient that may be stop the problem and solve out the issue. I mean, part of the issue, not all of them, but at least some critical issue.
Can I just ask one more question? So how do you perceive the severity and potential risks that are associated with all of these non-compliance violations? What are your thoughts on them? Do you find that they are severe, not severe, somewhat severe? What do you think of them?
I think they don't have the concept in food safety, and I believe they understand, but they just not willing to do it. Sometimes they just want to done the job quick, and as the food service consultants, right, we cannot guarantee all the food we serve are safe, but we just try to minimum the risk. So your question, I don't have specific answer. I just only can say I will do my best, keep telling them and watch them how to do things right, and make them to do certain things become their behavior.
The reason why I ask this
Yes.
is because I want to get a feel of how much of an importance you feel that this might be or may not be, because for us, it is very important. And like
Yes.
he had mentioned, there's a pattern, and it's a lot of the same violations, and this can cause someone to get
Yes.
ill and sick. And so if people don't understand that are working there, and they don't think that it's important, that's a problem, because this is important.
I will keep telling them all things are important. To me, as consultant, I don't have certain food important and certain food not important. All things are important to me, and that's my job.
I know that you go quite frequently. It's not a missed opportunity when you're there. It's a missed opportunity when you're not there.
Yes, I agree.
I think that you have to modify your monitoring to not only include visits, but telephone calls
I did. Sometimes I'm
on the
together.
patents. Even if it's a daily basis phone call, to track down that patent, get the feedback, make the correction, and do it that day. Not having to wait between intervals. So I understand that you're on top of it, but they have to recognize the pattern. They have to recognize the violations. They have to have somebody addressing them. Then they need some reinforcement from you to make sure that they're being addressed. And if that has to happen by a phone call or some other monitoring, then it seems to me that you need to modify the way you're approaching their monitoring so that we can try to work on these patterns and work on eliminating the critical violations, because that's my major concern. My major concern is that, one day at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time. That's what this takes. Weeks, it's not going to work. There's too many days in between.
I think this will be no problems, and I believe Kevin will also has no problem too. We will do. I mean, we can do it.
So I'm going to ask one quick question, then I'll turn it over to you, Susan. Right now, in the restaurant, how are food temperatures being checked? Not by you, but by Kevin. What's the restaurant staff doing to check temperatures of food?
They use the thermometer to check.
An old-fashioned thermometer?
Yes, right.
Okay. I think two things that would help us, and I know, Susan, you'll talk about the temperature, but it also seems like we need to be keeping track of what the ambient air temperature is in the kitchen too, because if that's one of the issues.
That's a report that you really need to work on and work on, especially in the summer months. And I don't see it getting cooler, I see it getting hotter. So Ray is speaking to a very important component of this food safety program.
I will ask Kevin to get the technician to do the AC or more equipment to for the cooling down in the kitchen.
Okay, and then Susan, I'm going to ask you a question first. When it comes to checking temperatures of food, from your industry background, and not saying what you do specifically, but in general, what is preferred means of checking food temperatures?
It's checked constantly. Everyone is responsible for their units. That's their home. So it's constantly checked. You have to make sure your staff is well-educated and they know what the codes are. Because my staff is the first one that will come to me and say, this temperature's going down. That's how most restaurants work. It's not the consultant and it's not the owner. It's the staff, and it's their responsibility to ensure every day, all day, that those temperatures are correct. They're the ones that are walking in and out of the refrigerator. They're the ones that are bending down and taking things out. And those thermometers are right there. The old-fashioned way works just fine, as long as the staff are educated. It's the only way it's gonna work.
Okay. So,
Thank you. So when it comes to HVAC, there's one thing I just want to make clear. Most restaurants do not have AC, and there's a reason for that. Yes, it's hot, but that's what chefs are used to. I don't care if you're at the major hotel in Boston or if you're at a regular small restaurant in Tewksbury. You cannot use AC because you have your system, your exhaust fan is intake and outtake, and it balances each other. So when you put AC into it, you're messing up that balance. And I, by mistake, put an AC in my kitchen, mainly for me. And my staff it's not working, you can't do it, because it's messing up the equilibrium, as you may call it. So with that said, yes, everyone should be concerned about the heat and about the process of keeping food to the proper temperature. But if they're well-educated, they know that they have to put things in a bath, or they need to be educated on how to handle it in the extreme heat. Because you can't air condition a kitchen. You can't do it. And you can't put heavy fans in a kitchen, because you're gonna mess up the flames. So you need to count on your HVAC. And as Bob had said, you may need to have someone come in and check it, although if it was only put in a year ago, it must be in pristine condition. But you may need to have them check it.
And it's the balance.
Yeah.
It's not so much the cold air.
No.
It's really not that. Is it balanced so that you're getting enough fresh air and exhausting enough expended air so that the area is balanced from a standpoint of intake and exhaust. If you're taking too much out, okay, there's no possible way to catch up. If you're putting too much in, there's no possible way to catch up. And so when she's speaking about cooling, I'm not talking so much about cooling, I'm talking about balance, okay? So that's a good point.
I get frustrated reading the reports, but I totally understand what happens. So I'm not here to say anything but to give you some suggestions that would definitely make a difference. The first is when you hire staff, they should not be on their own and working unless they have gone through full training by a ServSafe certified staff member. How many staff members do you have that are ServSafe certified?
The head chef
Just the head chef?
and then me.
Okay, so I'm gonna suggest that you need 2 more people, ServSafe certified,
Okay.
that are gonna be there one has to be there, because from what I see, your chef isn't doing his job. Because if he was doing his job, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
So you need someone who's going to, maybe they're a prep person, maybe they're on the line, but they're serve safe, and you make it their responsibility to walk around and make sure that that person who's training from a training program, normally it would take 2 to 3 weeks to train someone before
Yeah.
they're on their own. And I know it's tough finding staff, but it's critical that they're fully trained. Don't take anything for granted. I don't care if someone tells you they know everything. Don't take anything for granted. You need to know for sure that they know what they're doing before you let them on the line, unless you're right beside them. So, first suggestion is you have 2 more people serve safe, because you're open a lot of hours, and your chef is doing a lot of work. So you need other people to become responsible. You need 1 person responsible for new trainees. And there has to be a training program created that you go by, day 1, day 2, exactly what they're going to be learning. And when they're done, then they'll be ready to go on the line. And you don't have to worry about someone putting hot food in a cold refrigerator, because they'll know you can't do that. I'm also going to suggest that you have your chef, does he do the training now?
Who?
Who does the training? Who trains your new
Head
staff?
chef.
The head chef?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's training staff and he's cooking.
Yes, he may not have enough time, but when I go there, I will talk to the head chef and pick the minor violation, and I will retrain the head chef, then the head chef will train to the worker.
Well, how long has your head chef been with you?
How
How
long?
many? How long?
Let me see. Already, 2 years, more than 2 years.
Okay. Then he needs a refresher course. He needs to go back and learn, because he should be walking around all day long.
Yeah.
All day long. Your people in your kitchen, they can't work like this. They have to have their eyes everywhere. And they need to walk around and see. He needs to walk around and see, open the refrigerators, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Make sure if someone's making something,
Yeah.
he's in the same room, correct? Look over, make sure they're doing it correctly,
Yeah.
and make sure they're putting it away correctly. It sounds to me that your staff is just blinded. They're not working as a team. So that's something you need to work on.
Yeah. I get in, look around, in the kitchen every
They need to be
day.
responsible, because
Yep.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of restaurants that if they had a chef there for 2 years and you were sitting here and they were sitting here on the board, that chef wouldn't be there. Chefs have pride in what they do. And to have a consultant for 6 months, it's wrong.
No, he become a chef. He's the regular cook. Become in the formal chef. He retired. He have been work here for 2 years.
It
The
happens.
chef.
So he needs to go to school again, and he needs to understand, because obviously,
Okay, I will talk to
Yes.
him. I will talk to him.
so if we can get him to have a refresher course, and then you have 2 more people that go to Serve Safe and get certified, and put together a training program, and they are not to work on the line until they've been fully trained.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay, I have a couple questions. On an average day, or what are your hours of operation on a typical day? When's the restaurant open and when is it closed?
You say, what is the business hour?
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, the hour is shorter than before. Not, the business is not that good, so cut down the hour. Usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I open noon time,
okay,
and then I close 11.
okay.
Yeah.
So at what time during that, say 11 to late evening, is the head chef there?
He come in the same hour, whatever the
Yes, from opening
opening to
Until
close.
close.
Okay, so he is there from open and closing,
Yes.
okay. Because one of the things I just want to make sure you're aware of is that in the food safety regulation that the board approved this year was a stipulation that there is to be at least one ServSafe certified person at all times during the normal operations of the restaurant. So from prepping during business time to cleanup afterwards, so that we know that there's someone there that has that knowledge that can make sure that what needs to be done is being done. So that's why I was asking how long, so it sounds like there is someone there.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the question. Any other questions from board members for our two guests?
I guess my question would be, now that you heard some of these suggestions, I'm hoping, are you willing to work on these? And what would be your first priority as far as, like, what do you feel would be the first priority to start working on? Because I'd like to know what you find.
I will make the conclusions with the owner and the health department. Then I will accept the new training to the staff. But yes, and I will still keep watch them how to get improved. Yeah. Sometimes the consultant just like the teacher, their student.
Right.
We talk, we teach, but we cannot guarantee every student go to Harvard, or graduate. But we do the best as we can,
And I'm guessing you're able to help him with creating this training program
Yes.
for, okay.
I will ask Kevin to buy the ServSafe book in Chinese so they can be more easy to understand, the book,
Okay.
I just had one follow-up question. Your immersion cooling, where you take hot food and prepare it and cool it, do you have a cooling bin, or is this something that the ice is changed all the time? Is it next to the ice maker? I just wanted to know about the cooling from hot to cold, from cold to storage, that rapid cooling station. Where is it located in the restaurant?
I asked them to put the hot food on the street pan until 71. If in the hot summer, at 71, they can just grab it and put in the fridge for another part of the cooling. Because right now outside is 91, there's no reason I can bring down the food to 41. So on 71 degree, then I will ask the cook, put the car with the wheel into the walk-in cooler to cool down to 41. Yeah. Then pack up.
The other issue is when you're putting covers on containers. The heat in that kitchen raises the temperature of food very quickly.
Yes, that's the problem, yeah.
Covering and keeping covers is very important.
So on Monday night, I talked to the cook, put some ice at the bottom. And, or on the top, try to make it better, But, just for the summertime, happen this kind of situation, especially this year, is very hot every day,
So you feel that that's gotten better since you've,
Sometimes I make the idea, and I have to make sure they do it correctly. Sometimes they don't do it, or maybe they do it Monday, Tuesday, but they don't do it Wednesday or Thursday. That's always happen. So that's the consultant's job to make sure they do it every day, and the PIC, the person in charge, has to do the supervision.
thank you, that's all I have.
So you folks can have a seat.
Okay.
And it's not an official hearing, but I think there's time for us board members just to openly discuss what we think we should, as a board, put forth as recommendations.
Okay. Thank you.
And first, I'd like to just have Director go through what she had recommended initially, or if you have any changes to that based on what you've heard tonight.
So my recommendations would I put all employees trained in ServSafe. If you guys want to change that, that's up to you. Also develop standard operating procedures, one for the cooling and two for the temperature logs. We could also add a training standard operation procedure. That's just something that's in the code, and the consultant can help put those plans together and then submit them to the health department for us to review and approve it. Because that will take into account corrective actions when things go wrong. Say the food's at 70 degrees, like immediately put it in an ice bath or put it in the walk-in cooler. Things to make sure that the staff know, that's in writing, what to do when this happens. They'll just pull out the plan and look at the plan and then take the action as necessary. Also, hire someone that is a professional to come look at the refrigeration units, just to make sure they're working properly. I think that could also help. It seems that the temperatures are a big problem just in the appetizer unit. So make sure that it's just working properly. And I know he did buy a new piece of equipment, but that's not in use yet. So that will not, obviously that probably doesn't need to be looked at, but the existing equipment should probably be checked. That's my recommendations.
So let me just talk about that last one first. So we've had other cases, I believe, Bob, that we wanted to make sure that the preventive maintenance was being done on equipment. So I think to further, not just to have someone come in and make sure that at that point in time things are working, but to know that there's a preventive maintenance schedule on the refrigeration units to ensure that the company's coming out to make sure that things are properly maintained. I'm still concerned about just the ambient air temperature. And I think one of the things I noticed is that there were critical temperature violations even before summer hit. So even before the outside air was as hot as it is now. So I don't know how much of the issues can be attributable to just a hot summer, if some of these issues were happening before then. So it really begs the question, what's the balance of the exhaust system in their kitchen, and is it functioning? So I think besides having someone come and check it, again, we want to make sure that there is a firm that is retained to make sure that preventive maintenance is being done, whatever may be required in that.
Normally, normally restaurants would have a refrigeration guy. We all have refrigeration company that we deal with. And they come in twice a year just for, even if there's nothing wrong, especially just before the summer, they come in and they check everything to make sure everything's running correctly. When it comes to the, like, the temperature of the food, and when you talk about bringing in, having someone help them with the, like, the temperatures, that's everyday stuff that you do. It's the responsibility of the workers. So I don't think getting more people, hiring more people to come in and help them do their job is gonna make them do their job. I think the people who are doing the job need to learn to do it properly.
Yeah, I think it was more about trying to identify the root cause or root causes of the food temperature issues. And some of it may be environmental,
Right.
right, but it may not be all environmental, at least for outside air temperature purposes.
Just speaking to that quickly. Our colleague just indicated that maybe they come in once or twice a year. My experience is that it's a little more than that. First of all, many pieces of equipment have the old gas in it. Gas that's no longer supplied. Gas that no longer you can get. So those pieces of equipment are antiquated. They're on their way out. They're servicing food. Then you have the new equipment with the new gases, easily checked by someone with gauges, the correct gas, and easily addressed. When we talk about equipment, that's the state of equipment that we're dealing with. We're in transition from one protocol to the next protocol. A lot of people get stuck. They can't afford to move to the next protocol. They can't afford to move to the next technology. But what that does is it compromises the ability to meet the standards that we set. No employee is going to recognize that.
But if they're trained right, they will recognize it.
Well, then
And
training is certainly the mantra
It
here.
is, it's the knowledge of your job
Yeah.
is what it is. And when I said twice a year for me, that was strictly maintenance. Yes, things break down, and of course, if I have to look at the whole year, most restaurants probably have someone come in maybe a half a dozen times. But I'm just talking about maintenance before it goes bad. And it's the staff.
These are some of the things that we don't have complete control of. And, you know, on a visual inspection, these are not things that are coming up in conversation or in an inspection. We depend upon the restaurant owner to do the right thing, to have an equipment replacement program. And this isn't just speaking to the JVs or anyone else. This is industry. This is what we're up against. And sometimes, especially in these challenging times, the last thing on your mind is replacing a piece of equipment so that it might hold a better temperature, or knowing that it's on its way out, or even having a program that you have a replacement program. So these are things that the board generally doesn't run into, but we know they're out there. We know they're out there, and they're challenging all owners, not just the people that are in front of us this evening.
So if we were to look to have them retain a contractor to come in and check the refrigeration equipment and anything else
Yes.
that deals with that, to at least see, is everything operational and are any repairs
You
needed?
walk around in there, because I haven't been, but when you walk around and you look at the temperatures, if all the temperatures are where they're supposed to be, what's the issue?
Correct.
I mean, I don't understand why it's an issue. If it breaks down, it breaks down. But why would they have to hire a consultant to check, to make sure everything's working? You can tell just by looking at the temperature.
Right, because the
They're not gonna be
thermometer
hiring
doesn't,
a consultant to look, this is the general maintenance plan. This
Right.
is, you don't
If
hire.
it's not working, you have to call someone in.
Well, I think if it's not broken, why do you need to fix it? What's broken is, from my understanding, what's broken is the people that are working there that aren't trained, and they're not looking, and they're not doing the proper
That's the bottom line.
specifications, they're not taking the resources, they're not being educated, or they just don't care. I don't know, because I don't know these people, but either they're not understanding, they don't care, or they're just not following through, because a temperature, there was many times that the temperatures were fine, and then there was many times that the temperatures are not. So obviously, there's something that is missing and there's lacking, and it's a personal, it's a human error. It's not, why fix something that's not broken?
I truly believe that everything that's going on has nothing to do with the equipment or the hot air outside. It has to do with proper training and people that don't work with these shields on their side. I think it's just a matter of educating, period.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, I agree, because what you had mentioned, all those I had already bulleted, so you took all of my things. But yes, definitely reinforce the food safety trainings on all staff.
Well, I don't know if I agree, I'm sorry, I don't know if I agree with all staff, because,
Within a certain time frame, I think, just
well,
because.
I'm gonna tell you, it's, your staff come and go. So the people that you want to have serve safe, you want to invest that money and send them to the class and make sure that they're served safe. And you want to make sure that you have enough people working that day that are served safe trained.
So is it your responsibility to pay for the employee to get it?
Everyone
Understand. Okay.
does, I do,
Okay,
but I would never have everyone in my kitchen serve safe certified, because they come and go. Dishwashers, prep people. You want your main people, and you need to depend on your main people.
how many would you say if there's,
We have 5.
so 5 people,
Serve
kitchen?
safe, certified.
Yeah. And then I would definitely want a plan, like I would want a corrective action plan of what they're gonna be doing, outlining how long they're gonna address and rectify these violations, how long it's gonna take, because, specific timelines and steps to address each violation. And then, having someone that's gonna be responsible for overseeing food safety and, practices, internal inspections, really increase the accountability. That's what I wrote, increase the accountability of people and make them responsible. I know it is a hard time to hire people, but there are good people out there, and there are some people that actually do like their job. And so it's the training. There needs to be a program of some sort, and getting that done and making sure that people understand the importance of that. Because I don't want anybody getting sick.
I think these are all very laudable goals. Everything that we've talked about this evening is part of what the challenges of running a restaurant is. This is what it is. It's not just one thing. It's a combination of everything. You have to be a jack of all trades. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
You have to be a jack of all trades. You have to be hands-on. And I know what you're saying. I would love to see an absolute checklist that takes care of these critical violations. I'd love to see somebody say, our HVAC system is in wonderful working condition. We check the pressures all the time. Everything's beautiful. We close the refrigerator door behind us every time we walk in. No, we don't. We never do that.
Right.
The hot air rushes in, the food gets compromised, and if you do that enough during the day, you have a compromised situation. These are the training things our colleague is talking about, right? Because you have to be a jack of all trades.
I mean, that's
We're not going to
also-
fix everything this evening at this hearing, but we have critical violations that we've all recognized are patents. And those are the things that I want to see corrected right away. Those patents are what is compromising the possibility of someone's health. Not the refrigeration, it's not the HVAC, these are all components of having an operation working at optimum conditions. But our point to address, and I want you to take away this evening, is that the patterns that we see in these reports, we must address. We're going to address them just as you speak, and I would suggest, as you speak, that the training, that the lists be adhered to, that the consultant honor those lists and report diligently. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you so much for coming
Can we
this evening.
summarize?
And this is not a reflection.
No.
This
So
is
they-
industry-wide, okay? It just so happens that, you know, your restaurant is here because of these critical violations. So let's get them corrected.
So I'm just going to say my last, where the one other suggestion besides the training, which I think is the number one, that's the most critical,
Yeah.
because these issues aren't due to anything but staffing in their training. But I'm also going to suggest that there are, with the training, you also have sheets on your wall that have opening procedures and closing procedures, because that makes or breaks the kitchen for the next day. And they're checked off every single day. That way, you can see where you're losing someone or who's not paying attention. So you'll have your training done, you'll do daily procedures with the opening and closing that are checked off, and then you're going to have weekly, and the weekly things are taking care of the, whether it's the walk-in, it's the line that the chef works at, that the filter needs to be cleaned. Those are all things that should be on a weekly basis check-off sheet, so that you just need to look at it and say, oh, they did this, 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 and that. I don't have to worry about it, as long as the temperature's correct. So those are
I
my,
can make one, the checklist to the health department on tomorrow. And also I will give the copy to the owner, make sure they follow and do everything.
thank you so much.
You are
The filter, I clean by myself.
They should learn to take care of their own stuff,
Yeah.
because that way you know it's getting done all the time. And it gives them, it's good for them to take care of what they use all day. It gives them pride. So teach them.
Yeah, I got to teach them. The problem is that sometimes some worker come and go, so you're the training and
Teach
the
the
new
next
guy,
one.
yeah, new guy again, you know.
It's not easy.
No, easy. They look at my fight. The first time, 2008, I entered this room. My lawyer, because I take over the JEs, so at the meeting here, this is the second time I feel the same, you know.
So
Now,
Shannon,
yeah, I got to try my best, right? To you know to operate my restaurant. You know, I work very hard. And me and my wife every day, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week in the restaurant. You know, not easy. You know?
so Shannon, in your timeline, you had indicated that on May 9th, you had ordered to extend consultant contract. Do you remember how long the food safety consultant was?
So it was 3 months, and then if there were no repeats, I believe I was going to say they were okay, but that clearly is not the case.
Okay, so I think one of the things the board should look at is requiring that the food safety consultant remain on board for X amount of months, because if 3 months in May puts us into July, August timeframe, which we're at right now, and obviously they're not at a point to have the food safety consultants not be involved, to not provide trainings or monitoring any of that. So what do members of the board feel this food safety consultant should remain engaged for?
3 months. And everything should be completed in 3 months. Everyone should be trained.
Do you want
3
them
months.
back here in 3 months to,
I don't even want to put a timeline on it.
But
Well,
if
I don't
you
wanna put
don't,
it-
it's not gonna, if you
Right,
don't put a timeline on it, I don't feel like,
It's not gonna happen.
if they need to, we need to know exactly who's getting trained, when they're getting trained. If you don't put a timeline on it, it will be here in 7 months, 8 months.
The reason I don't want to put a timeline on it is that it gives an outside date for compliance. There is no outside date for compliance. Compliance is tomorrow.
Okay.
So having a day in the future for a consultant's a great idea. But the problem that we have is immediate, it's impactful, and it needs to be addressed. And I would feel more comfortable with interim dates to determine how they're doing, and then determine when the food consultant is necessary to, which will also define the scope of his success and the scope of what needs to be addressed. No outside dates, I just don't believe in them. I think the moment you give an outside date, it's like a parole date. Doesn't work. What we need, unfortunately, with food safety is immediate action on these critical violations and on the areas of concern. The food consultant should be focusing heavily on those areas while he's addressing some of the other concerns that we brought up, right? So I can't put an outside date on it. I would like to see these things corrected and then determine how successful they're doing, and then determine when, if the food consultant could be reduced in scope.
the problem is their contract ends, May, June, July, in August. So for the consultant, he kind of needs a little bit of direction.
What if we did?
So do you want to have a
specific-
review date in
That's what
3
I'm,
months?
that's what I'm thinking.
A review.
So if it's a review date in 3 months, I'm more on board with that concept. But at this point, I don't have an outside date
What if,
for,
what if we did like specifics, like so their head chef needs to be how long does it take for them to get re-educated or? Okay, so like their head chef has to be re-educated or some type of, reinforce their food safety training by X date,
I
which
don't-
should be like,
I don't want to like micromanage every,
Yeah.
No,
Plus
just
the
that
dates are all
component.
different. You can't just, you have to
Yeah.
go by what's available,
okay.
so that it's different.
Because that would be the person that would be the main, right? Because he's the head chef. He's like the main
You
person.
should do 3 at a time.
You can do 3?
You should do 3 at a time.
Okay.
But
Can
I
say
agree, I
something?
don't,
Sorry, I think you guys are just concerned about consultant for the training, but consultant is not only for the training, it's also for the supervision, and after the training, consultant can do the supervision. So, I just wanted to, this.
Yes.
Yeah, because we also want to make sure that once a correct pattern is established, that
Continue.
proper operation continues.
Right.
I know a lot of times, and you had mentioned it too, that when we've had a food safety consultant, that we have some type of a rough timeline, so the consultant has some idea of how far out their scope goes, but also our focus is more, or has been in prior directions, that the food safety consultant needs to remain engaged until there's been like 3 months of reports with no critical violations to show that things are on the right path. So that's what I was talking about, trying to come up with something where the contract will be expiring next month, of just something that contractually they can get something worked out, but that we know and they know that mutually there is an end in sight, and that is the sooner that they can get things fixed, they don't need to keep having that consultant there.
So you have to have a specific date for the consultant then? Okay.
So like a review in 3 months?
And be more, at least up until,
You said review?
Review.
Like a review in 3 months, that way they
Yeah.
can still expand,
That's kind of what I was thinking this time, but clearly that
yeah.
didn't happen, so.
Yeah, so maybe, yeah, like a review in 3 months, so that way they can expand their contract, right, if I'm not mistaken, and then, because they'll still come in front, we'll still know prior to them doing that, and then possibly having another 3 months after, if everything is going well, having another 3 months of no violations before anything.
yeah, so
maybe
we
we
could
can,
have a
like,
compliance.
Like a
lessen the-
review-
lessen the
Like a review and a
frequency.
compliance
Well,
type of
It
thing.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens in the court system, it happens everywhere. It's
Yeah.
compliance and election. It's not
Yeah.
a concept unfamiliar.
Right.
Compliance and election, and that's really what this is can we get to compliance, and then can we elect to move the consultant to a different date?
Right, so I guess the questions at hand for me, I look at, we would want them to continue, we'd have a status hearing at our October meeting, which should be 3 months out. But, to your point, we also need to make sure that the immediate thing is taken care of. So it's not just the training issue, which hopefully over time will minimize the occurrence, but the pattern has to be broken now. So how do we, what do we put forth as a way to gauge that?
The standard operating procedures. So the consultant will come up with that procedure, submit it to me, I'll approve it, and then hold them accountable
Each day.
for those actions.
So it sounds like we need to put
So that's, again, training back on the employees for that procedure.
a date certain that that has to be done by, so that we give them some structure that they have to have that plan.
And he could probably do it in a day or two.
There's a lot on the table that we've discussed this evening, but we can't lose focus of the fact that we have these critical violations that we really need to put our thumb on,
Yeah,
and that's the main concern. If I could get these critical violations to a point where I don't have to worry about them in 3 months, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be very happy. And, you know, to be honest with you, a lot of this other stuff can take care of itself in the interim. But making sure that we have the safety protocols in place that are the cornerstones of our code. They're the cornerstones. So let's see if we can't get them to that point. I think 3 months is more than enough time to review that and have feedback on how we stand with those critical violations. And I think they've heard enough that they understand what the concerns of the Board of Health are, and you know, hopefully they'll be able to grasp those concepts and run with them.
so the director put forth on the recommendations, the second one was develop 2 standard operating procedures with corrective actions.
Yes.
So we've all agreed that that needs to be done
Immediately.
Like-
immediately. So do we give them within a week's time? Those plans have to be to the director, or?
2 to 3 days. It shouldn't take, they probably already have most of it
So today's,
somewhere. It should take 2 to 3 days at the
so
most.
today's Thursday.
Take a month,
Mon-
it'll take a
Monday?
month to get up to speed, it's the summer,
No, we're
it's,
just talking.
No,
about-
just
No,
to
have the
develop.
plan.
have
Develop.
the plan.
Yeah, just to have the
Putting it
plan,
together.
putting the plan together, so
Just
by,
the plan.
by Monday?
Because without the plan, there's nothing to hold folks
Accountable.
accountable
Meeting
to.
next month?
We do.
We do.
Okay, so
But the plan will go to you.
there's a
That will
possi,
come to me.
there's a possibility that this plan could be in front of us in 30 days.
It sounds like what you, I mean,
We could probably do it by Monday, get to you.
yeah,
You
because
would
the
then
board
have
doesn't
to
have
look
to.
at it and approve
It's
it.
administrative, but I think
Right.
what we need to get across to them is if our main focus is on the critical violations and the two SOPs are needed in order for the training to start to try to get the critical violations to go to zero, then that needs to happen as soon as possible.
I want to say one thing, right? All the critical violations has been solved out already. The report, you saw the violation on it, it's all solved out by Monday. I mean, I went over there on Monday night, it's solved out already, but, yeah.
I would say by Monday.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm okay with Shannon doing her job
Yeah.
in the interim.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we have a meeting in a month, we need to review.
Yeah, so I would say that
Monday.
Monday, by the close of business Monday, or by the time the department closes a month, because I know the new town hours, that you are to receive the two SOPs from the food safety consultant.
Okay.
So that then they can start implementing that as part of their training. And then we'll schedule a
Just call it a status.
status
review.
update at our August meeting.
Could I also make a suggestion that they look to see the next ServSafe certifications, because they're not, you can't just do it all the time. You have to look and see the dates and where they take place and when they're taking place.
Are you a ServSafe instructor?
Okay.
Can I just suggest something? I'd like to suggest that they go outside.
But he,
But all
that the-
we bring-
yeah, he can speak their language.
Yeah,
Which helps.
But I'm sure that the department has people that can speak the language as well.
We don't recommend anybody.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not recommending anybody. They can
Oh,
find it.
Last time, when he applied for the survey, I didn't teach them, I recommend other consultant
Yeah.
Yes.
to them.
Yeah, I'm sure he can
find-
help find them, somebody for them.
Yeah.
So maybe have dates for who's going to be serve safe and what dates they're going to be going? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Like
to get
having
that
them,
rolling,
have them
because it's
send
not
that to
easy.
you as well, right? Is that what you're
Or
recommending?
they could just update us at the next meeting. I don't know. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think as long as they can update us at the next meeting, and they'd also offered to try to get 2 other people ServSafe certified. So I think if they can just show us progress towards meeting what they proposed
Yes.
as a sign of good faith effort, would be good to report at our August meeting. So we meet the 3rd Thursday of every month. So I'll invite you folks back to our meeting, which should be on August 17th.
Okay.
Okay. Are you clear?
Yep.
Okay. Okay,
I'll
well,
send you an email tomorrow.
Okay, I will talk to you on the phone.
Okay.
Thank you.
and thank you
Thank you.
both for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, director reports.
Alrighty. Ashley, the nurse, and Christina from the senior center are putting on a dementia presentation, and that's going to be August 24th at 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the senior center. If anyone's interested, they can call the senior center and RSVP to Susan. During the month of June, we had an intern, Sarah Rizzo. She is a student at Roger Williams, and she completed 2 projects for us. One is on cyanobacteria. As you know, we had the problem with Long Pond last year, so she put together a poster and some flyers about that, and that's on display downstairs outside the health department. Also, she did a backyard barbecue food safety presentation, which again is outside the department downstairs. And we did get some thermometers with like a little brochure, so hopefully people take the brochure and the thermometer at the same time. So that's a nice little freebie we have downstairs for people. And then we do have some more COVID test kits available outside the nurse's office. We did get them, I'd say, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, so the supply's limited, but we still have some. And that's, Lisa's Pizza, Ray had asked me before the meeting, they should be opening within the next week or so. They have almost completed at this point. And that's all I have.
They get cleared through you.
Yep, we're working on doing the final inspections.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then Melissa, is there anything you can update us on Tewksbury Care since Kate is not here tonight?
No, so we kind of took a hiatus for a couple of months, well, like the last 2 months, due to not having a lot of people around. So I'm hoping to reach out to Kate to figure out what the next steps are, how to go forward with that, and then just go from there. Yeah, so I would like to get it up to speed. It's been a very slow process with not a lot of activity and people like coming in or I even sent out for Zoom and in person, so if people couldn't make it in person, but the Zoom was empty. So unfortunately, it's kind of sad that is the case, but I'm hoping put some good vibes out there that people will start to come after the summer maybe, because everybody's kind of doing their thing. So when school starts, hopefully that'll come up again. So I'll work with Kate and see, because I know she had mentioned some interest in that.
Yep.
So hopefully that will work out, and so we can get that going.
Yeah, and just to add to that, in prior years, when Tewksbury Cares actually did have a board and members attending the meeting, and not just board members, the Board of Health would elect a member to serve on the Tewksbury Cares board as the Board of Health representative. So last year, when we put you forth and voted you on to Tewksbury Cares, I guess it's more in the hope that we probably jumped the gun and trying to have you be our board member representative before there was a board, so that when there was talk between you and Caitlin about she'd like to help out on that, I had corresponded with her that there's no board vote we need to take, because technically we're only voting to have someone serve as the board's representative on the Tewksbury Cares board. In the meantime, any or all of us are welcome to help out with Tewksbury Cares and doesn't require us to vote.
Right, which is nice, because what I'm hoping is I don't want to just lay it all on her either. I would, work with her willingly and see what we can do, and if we can get it up to progress. And then if, she is willing and we vote on her being on the board, I am totally good with that and open to that. But whatever support that she may need, and if I'm able to go, for sure, I will definitely help move it forward, because I've been trying for the last year, so I don't want to give up just yet. So, but yeah, so
And then I
hopefully we'll
think-
get a board going.
And I think the other important thing I'll just do as an update is that when you, I, and the director had met, at the end of June or so, and talking about Tewksbury Cares, of also looking at trying to expand the mission statement of Tewksbury Cares, so it's not just about substance abuse and alcoholism, but also about encompassing overall health, because these things are more resulting from other things that weren't done correct.
Right.
And trying to look at the whole health of someone to try to improve the overall well-being so that people don't have to,
Right. We wanted to, I think we had discussed in a couple of meetings, we wanted to not make it so specific to one point, but make it more about caring about wellness in general, so the whole body, mind, body, soul kind of thing. So I believe we were working on figuring that out. I just have to reach back to Susan Timmons about that. So, because she was going to look into the whole legalities of it, because I don't.
Right, so
honestly
we
don't
weren't sure,
know.
but I just wanted to mention that
Yes,
tonight, so
yes.
as we're trying to get some traction going in the fall,
Right.
that we're also trying to see if we can expand the scope of it to be more inclusive of the overall health of someone.
Absolutely, yeah, so just everything kind of encompassing, not just one point, but just overall health, yes, of the population.
Okay. And then the other thing I just wanted to bring up is that the last time we met back in April, I talked about trying to get 2 working groups going, one for the body art regulation and the other for looking at or putting forth recommendations for some type of a letter grade food safety inspection.
Yeah.
So I guess I was sort of looking at you potentially if you wanted to run that working group.
I actually had that on, I was gonna speak about that tonight. I would really like to put together a working group. I would like to include businesses that that we address code with, such as, might be a few restaurants, tattoo parlor, maybe a bakery, and just different businesses, and put together a group where we're able to come up with ideas and suggestions and ways in which we can help other businesses or things that we can bring to the Board of Health to make better.
Yeah, I think what I was hoping that we'd be able to come up as a board with, again, doing some due diligence and research into those communities such as City of Boston that have successfully implemented a
That would be part
letter
of
grade.
The lettering, that would be part of it. I was looking at a larger scope of things and issues that would come under the umbrella, but that would be one of the first items to address.
Yes, I think as we do working groups, we're going to try to narrowly focus them so that it's one specific task, one specific outcome. And then we can always entertain other ideas for work groups. But I think we have a challenge at hand, and that is part of the way to, we'd like to recognize those establishments that are doing things correctly. And I think now is a good time for us to really consider putting forth some type of a letter grade system. Again, that would be looking at how has it been implemented in other locales, so we can try to mirror the same thing without trying to reinvent the wheel.
You almost have to start at a point where you investigate other jurisdictions who have had success with this
Yeah.
model. And
I don't think there's a lot in Massachusetts, just
Boston
to
is
be.
one that's very
And
successful.
I want to say their staff is a lot bigger than Tewksbury's local staff here. So I think that could be a big challenge for us in the health department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because part of it's trying to see how is this actually being implemented.
Because let's just say someone gets a bad letter grade and we are unable to get back there until X amount of time. And then they're upset with us. But food is just one part of our job. It's not all we do. So it's hard to put that pressure on us as well as have a bad letter grade out there in the community for X amount of time.
That's a valid point.
this is like the Michelin book from the 1950s.
That's why if there was like a
Familiar.
standard from the
Yeah.
If
state,
you're familiar with the Michelin
easier?
book, it was a letter grade, star grade of places where you would stop in your
Like the
automobile
hotels,
and
5 stars, 4
and,
stars.
and be happy.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of work. I think it's a tremendous amount of work. I think it's a very big undertaking. It may even be too big for our board. But I think there has to be some takeoff of it or some component of it that we could adopt
Yep.
in a very small scale that would facilitate the needs of this community. And that's what I'd like to explore,
Yeah.
rather than adopting a code or a letter grade system. I'm sure that we could craft something that might work for our community, and provide even incentives to meet specific goals, rather than issue pass-fail grades or anything else.
Well, what if we
So,
create a board that,
reaching or attaining goals would be a wonderful way to say, we're compliant, we're in good standing, and you should consider us for your next meal. So, but I'm sure that there's something out there that we might be able to craft with enough input, even looking at all these other systems,
Yeah.
taking pieces of them that are successful and that might work in this small community.
Because I'm sure there's a way to leverage what's already out there and utilize it for what we can do and have it a win-win for everyone versus, you know, like a both and versus an, you know, either or kind of deal. So,
and it may be this working group that can help create what that is. When, I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm just curious how Boston can do it so seamlessly. So that's something I'd really like to look into, and how they do it seamlessly, and it works. But I do understand what you're saying. Maybe it is the working group that comes together with a suggestion on something in between both, something that we create for our own town that will give us the same outcome.
Okay, so let's do some looking into what some options might be, and then we can just discuss this at our August meeting.
So about assembling a database or some basis to make assessments from, it seems to me that we could all do that individually.
Yeah.
And provide Shannon with something that might become a collection of information that we can take a look at and make assessments from, and decide whether we want to adopt, modify and adopt, or do something in that regard, and start slowly.
Yeah. And then put the working group together if we think that it's something that we can actually
And, you know,
do.
and I think that runs to your point. That's when people get involved.
Yeah,
Hold it, you're gonna do that? Well, how about this as a thought? And I think that's where your group comes in.
Yeah.
But we need to start a baseline. We need to have a baseline of information in case the group comes in with a new baseline that doesn't really fit, or we've already reviewed it,
Right.
rejected it, or something
Yeah.
to that.
right.
No, it's a great idea.
So, I would be,
so we can have show and tell at our August meeting about what we find.
providing what resources
Yeah.
I've done my own research on, and bring them to the board.
Yeah.
And put them in the collective baseline.
Okay, no, we'll take that approach. Okay. So, I know we've not done any board member training, and Mr. Rue would always make a motion at this point of the meeting, and,
I think we all have to chip in.
I will,
Fill Charlie's shoes.
I will make the motion to
One
close.
person that's gonna fill Mr. Charles Rue's shoes.
that's true.
So I think that we should share the
Share the wealth. yeah.
Okay,
and that this should be a moving motion from week to week.
Start this way and
to
go
put
down.
it in your best terms, as Charlie would have it.
All right, so this month I will put the motion in to close the meeting.
okay, motion's been put forth to close the meeting. Anyone willing to second the motion?
I second it.
Okay. Motion has been put forth and seconded to close tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so motion carries unanimously for nothing. It is 7:34. Good night, Tewksbury.
Good night.